Hello everyone, thanks for joining us. We will be starting soon. I hope you've watched this movie. Yay, thank you for joining us, everyone. We're gonna start in 30 seconds. Start counting. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to episode 4 of the Big Picture Pinball Show. We have a very special show for you today. We're going to be featuring Willy's Wonderland and Willy's Wonderland Pinball. I think Willy's Wonderland is James's new favorite movie, right, James?
It's definitely up. Yeah, it's topped up. It's top up there for sure.
Hello, everyone. Let's see you in the chat.
Welcome. Yeah, episode 4, and today's going to be a really special show. And I hope we shouldn't have any more problems with if we click out, come back in, we'll be back.
Don't jinx us, James.
I shouldn't jinx us. We're taking precautions. Anyway, we're here with Spencer Murrill, who is a prop builder, a puppeteer, a puppet maker, and Molly Coffey, an award-winning filmmaker and owner of fabrication house Zombie Cat Builds. And that is such an awesome name. So we're here to check out their work on Willy's Wonderland. For those who have not seen the film, it features a wonderful pinball machine that they designed and built. So we're going to talk about that and see a little bit of some footage from the show. If you have not seen the film, go rent it. I actually saw it at the public library the other day, so it's easy to find. If
you watched it in the library? You're so old school.
I'm old school. I got the DVD from the library, saw all the behind-the-scenes stuff, got the commentaries. I do my research. I try to get as much out of it as I can. So we have a clip from the film where the star Nicolas Cage interacts with the machine, and we can get some nice close-ups of the different graphics.
Do you want to play the trailer first for those who haven't seen it? You want to try it?
Let's go for the trailer. And if not,
hopefully
we'll be back. Hopefully it won't kick us off.
Hey, Wes Easton in the house. I was just working with you, like less than 24 hours ago. I don't know. And I'd like to say, just as a shout out, I'm so excited to have Molly and Spencer on the show, and especially Molly. I've known her for over a decade. We have bled, sweat, and cried our eyes out on many an indie film set back in the day, when we were doing lots of crazy stuff that I'm pretty sure none of us would ever do again when it comes to production. So I've been in the trenches with her, so now seeing her on this show is just like so special to me. But I'm going to play the trailer for this movie that they worked on. The awesome Atlanta film community came together and worked on, and I'm so excited. We are excited to hear more all about the behind the scenes of this.
We're gonna make it everybody's favorite pinball movie. So.
Yeah. So let me load the trailer. Let's see. In theory, this will work.
Welcome to Willy's Wonderland. Spend the night cleaning Willy's Wonderland, and I will pay to have your car fixed. Deal? You are officially on staff. Let's get the hell out of here. I can't stand to hear a grown man scream.
This place has a dark history. I know the bullshit story they told you. It's a lie. You're here to be a human sacrifice. Have you been listening to a word I've been saying? He's gonna die in here, but he won't listen to me.
The machines got out. Nobody is safe. Put your balls on, Evan. We're going to Willy's.
He's not trapped in here with them. They're trapped in here with him.
It's your birthday, and we want you to have fun. It's your birthday, so let's party. It's birthday time.
I enjoy a man of few words.
That is so the most intense trailer ever. It's your birthday. All right, everyone. We are here with Molly and Spencer. Say hi, y'all.
Hey.
So, I bring in some of the questions that we a lot of the pinball people can assume. Everybody knows you from the Atlanta community, but anybody outside of the Atlanta community, myself as well as other people probably watching the stream, might not know as much about you guys and exactly how you guys met, a little bit of your origin story, a little bit about what Zombie Cat is, what the hell's a Zombie Cat. If you could elaborate a little bit, tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll talk more pinball.
So Zombie Cat Builds is this fabrication studio that we have in the West End in Atlanta. There's about 8 of us there. We all dabble in puppetry or fabrication in some way. It's interesting because everybody kind of touches the art department and film in some way, but then also touches puppets in some way, which is obviously like a very niche kind of person. And so we've just kind of gathered all of those people under one roof, under the hopes that we can kind of build anything that that we want to, that might come across our table on a project. Spencer can kind of tell the story of how he found Zombie Cat, but he kind of just wandered into our shop one day.
Yeah.
like a zombie cat.
Yeah, I got a job.
Feral zombie cat.
I got a job in film industry like anybody does by popping your head out of a hole at the right time and saying, I can do that. And Molly posted something on Facebook asking, who can draw portraits on cakes and cake frosting in under 5 minutes? And
it was for the Carbonaro effect, which is you guys know the TV hidden camera magic show. So I designed 3 seasons of that show. I was a production designer, and that was wild to say the least. We were fabricating about 50 things a week, out of the shop for magicians that were a delight to work with, but really didn't understand physics at all.
Because it's all done with magic.
Right.
It just happens.
Yeah. And eventually we moved into a larger space, and Spencer became a part of everything, and thank goodness.
That's awesome.
How long have you guys been collaborating? When did he wander into the shop, and did you feed him before he?
Actually, I was really amazed that they had snacks available. The last
Crafty.
that I worked on. I honestly couldn't believe it. I was like, you guys actually will give us this free.
So you don't wander too far away.
And he never left.
Right.
Yeah.
That is the funny thing always of
working.
people that aren't used to the film industry. When you then feed them, it's really impressive.
They know what they're doing. If they're having starving artists come in and work on these crazy asks at a really tight turnaround time, if you just give them food, I mean, that's half the battle right there. But yeah, I think it was like 7 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, 7 is right for Carbonaro effect.
Man, I wanted to get on that show so bad. They kept trying to bring me on as on the production side, but I wanted to be one of the hidden camera operators. But no one would budge.
Actually would have been great because they had to hang out in these tiny little boxes.
Yeah.
Cameramen.
I remember when you were making that. I sent them a resume because I was friends with the AD, and I took pictures of me like hiding with a camera in like really tight spaces, like under the kitchen sink and like in a dog crate and in a trash can. They didn't want me.
So I saw something too. You've worked in stop motion as well. Is that more for your indie projects for personal
Yeah.
projects, and then you got into the shop later on? Tell me a little bit about the process of how the cat became a zombie.
Well, it's
You're
funny
obsessed.
because stop motion was my that was like my gateway to the film industry. I was this like gutter punk kid with no education who was like working as a bartender and was just making these like strange little stop motion shorts in my apartment. And so then I started meeting other people who actually were working in film. And I ended up this guy, Mike Bruni, who is a local filmmaker. He came and did voices on, and he wasn't even anyone that I knew. Somebody who I like just was like, we should just ask him. I was like, okay. And he came out and did voices for a recurrent character that we had in this stop motion thing that we were making. And at the end of the show, I like was giving gifts to everybody, but I didn't know him very well. So I made these really cheesy coupons for me to come and do free work on his projects.
That's awesome.
I mean, the whole 9 yards, like, you know, 1 free day of PA work, kind of like coupon. And like literally 2 weeks later, he called me and he said, hey, I'm doing this music video. Do you want to come out and PA? I was like, sure, no problem. And so I get there and there's this girl who has on combat boots and long hair. And she's like the only girl. And she's carrying all this heavy stuff past all these guys that are just standing around. So I started helping her. She's the production designer. And then the next thing I know, the art department kind of found me. And I figured out that all these weird things that I knew how to do, from, you know, fabrication to painting to, you know, semi-okay drawing, like all of that. You don't have to be good at anything in the film industry. You just have to have like a basic curiosity of knowledge of things and not be afraid to get really dirty. And you'll be fine.
That's a good way to put it.
Just get it done on time, basically. Yeah.
Yep.
So were any of those coupons for like free hugs at all? I'm just curious.
No.
Can I get
All
a
right.
coupon?
I want a coupon
free
for
work from Molly Coffee.
Spencer. Tell us a little bit about your
They're
journey
expired.
into film. I know I saw a lot of puppetry. So did you grow up working with actual marionettes and different kinds of puppets?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that I really got into as a kid artistically was building puppets. And when I was 9, I got this book that was taught you how to build some simple ones. And I've made all the projects in the book and was pretty quickly dissatisfied with building stuff just out of household things and wanted to make ones like I saw on television. And I started learning how to work with foam and all these other different processes. And when I was little, I mean, some of the processes are like require machinery or toxic chemicals and stuff like that. So I didn't get into that till later, but I went to Georgia State for sculpture. I got a degree there, and I studied a bunch of different techniques. I was really pretty curious, and so I tried a lot of different things. And then I built sets for a while as in my 20s. And then eventually I decided I want to pursue puppetry like professionally. So I took what was a childhood hobby and wanted to turn it into a job specifically.
That's awesome.
Did you work on Magic the Gathering, the musical? Molly's puppet short?
That was pre-Spencer.
That was
unfortunately.
pre-Spencer era. Okay, yeah. That's how I was
There's the pre-Spencer and the post-Spencer eras. Just like
I remember when I first met Spencer, I was coming in to Molly's shop to get something created for a movie. I forget, some horror film, I'm sure. And I saw Red and Ted's Roadshow in there that looked like you were about to start putting a new clear coat on it or something. And I was like, whose pinball machine is this? And Mom was like, oh yeah, that's Spencer's. And I was like, I gotta meet him. So it's cool.
So let's talk about pinball. We have some slideshows set up. Do you want to talk a little bit about your shop and some of the projects you've got going in your shop, and then transition into the pinball build?
How did you guys get involved with Willy's Wonderland? You know, and then we'll.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of interesting because I was not totally available to work on it. Like I had like 3 commercials lined up in a row, and there was like this small little window that Kevin was available. Kevin Lewis is the director, that he was available to like talk to me on the phone, and I was like on a tech scout for a commercial. And so I'm literally like walking around on this tech scout trying to like fall backwards to where nobody knows that I'm like on the phone and not paying attention to anything that's going on. But I had found out through like a friend of the line producer that there was a film coming to Atlanta that had puppets. And so I got really aggressive about trying to figure out who was bringing this movie.
Nice.
How could I get an interview to work on it? And so, yeah, I was like really, really aggressive about getting booked on the film. And then it was kind of this really crazy experience where, you know, like when you work as a production designer, 9 times out of 10, you're just, you're just like a cog in the machine. As much as you do get to influence tone and influence like the way things look, you still, you know, the projects that you really get to like put who you are on the screen are like few and far between. And so, you know, we were working remotely, especially, you know, I was here and Kevin was in LA. And so I'm like doing all these like sketches of things, and you keep sending stuff and not getting really any feedback on them, like ideas that I had for things. And then, so I just kept preparing. I was like, okay, so when he gets into town, we're going to have to start from scratch. Like he's going to get into town and he's finally going to start giving us notes on stuff. And then he got into town. I was like, no, let's start building those sets. And I was like, oh, okay.
Straight in.
So it was really wild how, like, you know, from the colors to all the branding of the Willy's Wonderland was all just like sketches that I did. You know, like I said, it isn't every project that's like that.
You might want to say what a production designer does, because I explain that to people all the time when they're like, my friend Molly's a production designer, like they don't quite get what that means.
Yeah, that's not just.
That's definitely fair. So the production designer is the person who's the head of the art department. The art department does all of the props, they do all the graphics, they do all of the sets and build them and decorate them. The production designer is like the head of that department. So I have lots of sub departments that work underneath me, from construction and paint and set deck and props. And so, we do mostly like draw the sets, and then we have the people within our department that build them.
How big was your team for Willy's Wonderland?
It was very small for like because we built 11 sets, and we built 11 sets in 2.5 weeks.
Now, was it in a studio, or where were these constructions done?
Yeah,
was it an old Chuck E. Cheese?
No, it was on a stage. The only 2 locations that we had in the film, well, no, I would say 3 locations, was the auto shop, the tow truck place was a location, and the exterior of Willy's Wonderland was a location, and then the trailer park obviously was. Yeah, that's it.
Nice.
Everything else was built on the stage.
Nice.
Cool. So
and the exterior of Willy's Wonderland. Yeah.
Right. So how did Spencer get involved with your team?
Yeah, so obviously I know that he can like work on pinball. I sit there and watch his machines are taken apart all over the shop all the time. So the script originally had an arcade machine. It was not pinball. It was originally an arcade game, and I pretty early on, even like before Kevin got into town, started planting the seeds that we should do a pinball machine, and we should go ahead and pull the trigger on it, you know, as so that we can actually turn this around in the small amount of time that we have to turn it around. I was like, but you know, just kind of making the case that, one, we would have to like, if it was we couldn't clear a game, like, and it, you know, we wanted something that really tied into Willy's Wonderland. It was branded to it. We didn't have time, or I don't personally have the connections to people that could necessarily make those arcade games. Then we would have to build we would have to basically make a monitor that was CRT, but that could play things that we fed into it. You know, there's just a lot of stuff. And then there's a lot of camera tests you have to do to make sure that the video can even be seen. I was like, you know, I like things that are tactile. So I just kept pushing pinball. Yeah. And so then Kevin was like, well, let's just see what Nick thinks. So they sent it to Nick, and Nick wrote back like it was like an email with like one line. It's like, I think that's a much better idea. And so then it was a pinball.
Yeah, that's so awesome. That's such a win for pinball too, and I feel like it wouldn't have had the same impact in the movie for those who watch it. Like his connection to pinball and how it kind of you get zoned in that world under glass and forget everything around you, and that analogy is just there throughout the entire film. It worked so well. Made the story stronger, I think.
Yeah, and also in a very interesting way, the way that he's so focused and the way that he really does become really obsessed with the pinball machine and becomes connected to it has actually allowed it to get really connected to the autism community, has like really kind of seen him as a character, as kind of a champion for them, which is something that I don't think any of us really obviously thought about at the time that we were doing it, but it's really special.
That's amazing.
Can we show some footage of the game and someone playing it?
Oh yeah, you want to play the?
Yeah, I want to play the clip.
The janitor dancing clip.
Janitor dancing clip.
All right, let's go to the full screen and watch, and we'll come back.
So I'm all visual. I want to see stuff.
All right, I'm gonna cue that up. I love this clip too. It's great. Not that one. All right, janitor dancing. Awesome. All right, I'm coming back.
Okay.
All right, that was amazing. What is it? Silly Moloch says, terrible actor, just saying. He wasn't acting, he was in love with that pinball machine and dancing his heart out, for the record.
I mean, he practically makes love to the pinball machine.
I've
seen people do that. It's intense.
Now, both of you guys had an input into the game. Molly, you did the back glass, and Spencer, you spent more time with the playfield and the look of the playfield. And then you would also tell me a little bit about the process as far as there was you were given some character design in which then you integrated that into the game. And there's a lot of subtleties to the game that were missing in that clip. Even though it's a beautifully edited, you were given some character design, and we love watching him dance. There's some beautiful things that I wish it rested on and that I could spend more time meditating over. Since pinball is really, to me, popular culture art, pop art. So let's talk a little bit. And by the way, it was very well edited, very well put together. So let's talk a little bit about.
Oh, look, even Todd Tuckey knew which pinball machine it was. Sorry to cut you off, James, but he caught it. Of course.
Todd's a bright guy.
So yeah, let's talk about the pinball machine that you created.
And by the way, he's drinking punch. By the way, just want to make sure that everybody saw that he had a can of punch when he plays games. Go ahead.
I don't know if you want to play that video where I'm sort of roaming around to that 2-minute video, Emoto, but I can. Basically, Molly sent me a number of set designs and things as they were forming. So I'm working off of assets of the machine of the movie and then trying to integrate them into the machine. So as she was making stuff, each of these characters had a part of Willy's Wonderland, like a room that they were associated with. So I tried to get that in there as much as I can. I like the idea of having themed shots in a pinball table, and each shot represents one thing. And so I tried to push that angle. So you have Nighty Night here, and his ball pit that's back there. That's like a little kind of a scoop, a saucer, I should say. Yeah. This is Tito. Tito had a volcano.
Yeah, but you don't ever actually, it's so dark and they're doing like a flashing light. You don't ever actually see the volcano, but there was a volcano in his room.
Oh, crazy.
That's Alligator, and that's his spinner shot there. Nice. And then Siren Sarah's Fairy Forest is up here in the top corner that you're seeing. She has a whole room in there that, makes it into the film. And then you have Gus's arcade with little 3D printed arcade cabinets and the rocket ship that's from his area.
Yeah, it was the ticket booth at the back of the room that we built.
And then Cammy Chameleon is there. And then Ozzy's shot is these drop targets. And then of course you have the dining room area, which was the part that I was probably most excited about. That was that sort of idea came to me immediately when she said pinball machine, like based sort of like a Chuck E. Cheese. It's sort of, it's a kid's restaurant. I was like, oh, if you could get a table with the pop bumpers, you could have that be like a dining room that the ball's bouncing around.
To the point even that the tiles on the floor is the pattern of the tiles in the room, because I had an overview that we had drawn that we gave to construction when they were placing the tiles, and I just sent the same drawing to Spencer.
Yeah. I think that gives a good overview of it. It was really a treat to be able to think about it in this way. And some of the stuff that they're working, it always happens with movies that there's details and sort of lore and thought that goes way deeper into things. So it was really nice to be able to get that in the table, at least, even if it didn't make it into the final film.
And it really, just the fact that we are so connected and are so accessible to each other. I mean, I really was like, as we were getting sets, pieces, like we did concept drawings of all the rooms in order to get approval. Like as that stuff is getting approved, I'm sending it directly to Spencer, for him to develop the stuff. And he was doing it piece by piece, which, came together in a really amazing way, which is a testament to his skill as an artist. But like, he really was having to like design little sections as we were getting things approved for production.
Wow. Did you ever have to do redos or redrafts? Like Molly's like, here's what the floor is gonna look like, and then you start making it, and then she's like, oh, just kidding, this is the floor now. Or do you guys have that like?
No, I would say that
any trife.
her experience with Kevin and getting approval basically carried through to me. Like he's liking what they're making, and as I was sending her stuff, I mean, everything was kind of lining up. And thankfully I didn't have to do any major rethinking of it. I think we kind of early on in the project, I got out there, all right, here are the things that have to make it in. We have to see images of all of the different characters in there. I'm going to give you that. And a couple other things like the basics of how the machine is going to look, which we'll show in the slideshow of like really early initial ideas. But beyond that, they kind of left me alone and let me do my thing, which was really great. I mean, a situation like that is pretty priceless.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, because again, like you keep waiting for the feedback or the notes to come down for changes. So, I'm sending these things to Kevin that are his mock-ups of the board, and I'm just like, look, we have like, I need answers on this stuff, but in 2 days, or we have to move forward. And he's just like, no, it's great. You wait for that shoe to drop, and it never really did. That's
awesome.
The only big changes that even happened on set, which is that originally in the script there is supposed to be sprinklers. So as opposed to confetti in the final scene, I'm spoilers. I don't know if I assume that people have seen the movie. But the final scene is like a big fight that, and it was supposed to be like the sprinkler sort of, and water comes down. To the point that when we built the set, we built it 4 feet above the ground. We had drains. We had a pump system. Like, I mean, it was wild. We had a grid above the stage so that we could run all the plumbing and stuff to our sprinklers. All this time went into this. And then about halfway through the shoot, Nick was like, I'm not going to get wet.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So then, so I made a pitch. I was like, okay, well, I need a day to like, everybody's throwing out ideas, and I'm like, I was like, can I have a day and then come back with and make you a pitch of like what we can do in the time that we have to do it and whatnot. And they were like, sure. So I left, and we ended up getting I got this from the special effects guy, confetti cannons. And we got some confetti, and we shot some videos of like what it would look like, and brought it the next day. And so we pitched confetti to them. So it ended up being confetti. That was like our big thing. And there's like a button that says it's your birthday that they like in the fight he gets thrown into. That is what starts the confetti. And we have been shooting in that room for 3 days without that button being there. So it does kind of just appear.
No one noticed.
Randomly on the wall. But yeah, I don't think anyone notices other than me. I'm like, well, there's a button up there. Oh, there's a button up there.
That's so funny. I'm not getting wet. Good, Nicolas Cage. Awesome. Well, let's continue with how you converted what is Devil's Dare pinball machine to Willy's Wonderland. Do you want to go ahead and screen share and show your PowerPoint presentation?
Yeah, and while she's pulling that up, I'll go ahead and explain our idea behind all of this. When they said they wanted a rethemed table and how quickly they wanted it, I knew that it had to be an alphanumeric display type of game, and hopefully something that fit well. I had the basic idea of we'll have the back of it be like a restaurant, like tables. So, and then you're really limited into what you can actually pick up locally. It's not like these things, especially if they're at a decent price, just sit forever. So I found this Devil's Dare, and it sort of clicked immediately. And I knew that a machine of this vintage, we would be able to use the display, the sounds, even if they wanted them. Although there is a little bit of voice in it. And so this one just kind of fit the bill, like immediately. Early on, it was pizza. So in the middle of it, you can see that I was like, that could be a pizza oven, and we've got our tables back there, and the rest will sort of work itself out. So we can.
Do you have any like gut remorse having one less Devil's Dare out there in the universe?
No, I do not, actually. And it's no knock on Devil's Dare, but I consider, I mean, I'll just sort of disclose how I feel about this sort of thing, but I'm working on a retheme project right now of a Demo Man. And yeah, there are thousands of some games out there, and probably, I would guess, maybe wild guess, 1,100 Devil Dare. Keep me honest in the chat if anybody knows how many they made of this.
I know, right?
Maybe I'm way off, but I've always wanted to work on theming a pinball table. And if you don't work for a major manufacturer or even some of the boutique manufacturers to get the opportunity to do that, you'll never get the opportunity to do it. So frankly, I encourage people, if they wanted to apply their own art to a table and they can afford the table itself, I would say go for it, because there is now one Willy's Wonderland table for better or worse that exists in the world.
Where is it? Do you know where it is?
We don't know where it is, and it's obviously been like a topic of conversation. So Willy's Wonderland wrapped on March 8th, and we had COVID was happening. So we knew that we had one good week to wrap out before the city was shut down completely. So they had 2 trailers that were there, and we were like just loading stuff onto trailers. I know one trailer went to one production company in New York, the other trailer went to LA, and now somebody knows where this is, but the producers are not admitting to who has it. And
Nicolas Cage has it.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage has it. Duh.
I mean, I will say Kevin Lewis, the director, he has the exterior sign for Willy's Wonderland. It's actually like he put it back together, and it's in his backyard. So I mean, there's things that are definitely out there, but yeah,
what a mystery.
That's the pinball.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna do a new documentary project called "Where is Willy's Wonderland Pinball," and we're gonna try to track it down and find it. That's crazy. The pinball machine's missing. All right.
Okay, so yeah, I shared like I figured these images might be useful to people that are interested in homebrew or retheming. Like homebrew is one thing and retheming is another, and there's similarities in process. But I had to do this really quickly, and I think about 3 weeks total, which is kind of crazy. I mean, people build homebrew tables over a period of years, and oftentimes the art kind of comes last because there's so much to do. There's coding, there's layout, and I just happen to be trained in graphic art, and that's the area that I'm sort of comfortable in. So just as an exercise, I thought this would be fun to like, how quickly can I actually do this? And so you see here a playfield that's been stripped, and it's even in the cabinet still. And I did a light sanding on it, and then I made masking tapes I used wax paper and traced certain areas. So I left all the actual writing on the playfield too, like hold bonus or some of these other things. Captive cave, you can see I left there. I got rid of that because it wasn't going to be a cave. It was going to be a ball pit. So I masked off all the inserts. And I got that going quickly. I didn't take the pop bumpers out. I didn't want to rewire them. So I just masked them off. If I did it again, I would take the pop bumpers out because it caused a little bit of trouble. But I light sanded all that and put a primer coat on it to give myself a white surface to start laying out color, and then start laying out different areas of the playfield. And I've always noticed, I'm obviously a big fan of pinball machine art. I'm really keen on it. I really pay attention to how different artists handle these things. And so I did kind of want to keep it in the vibe of 80s era. I kept things fairly simple, but just by nature of me doing it now, this stuff is going to have a little bit more of a modern feel to it. I'm trying to go with the vibe of the film, of course. So I started putting an arrow on the playfield towards the spinner shot and started blocking out color that I knew I could layer more stuff on top of. And then you can see I think I've laid it all out, and then I had to pull that masking tape off just to see what I was working with here.
And what kind of paint are you working with? Is it an enamel paint or what's the?
It's airbrush paint. So Createx airbrush paint works well. You want the surface to remain really flat as you're working on it. So airbrush paint has a lot of pigment, and you can cover an area evenly much faster than you can with anything out of a tube. And so yes, layering more stuff, and then you can see I'm starting to outline stuff here, and so. The other thing, I clear coated this table because it occurred to me after the fact that I didn't have to put an automotive clear coat on this, but I just do that anyway. I've refurbished several machines, and I got some Spray Max 2K and had that in hand, was ready to go. So I'm using all acrylic paints here. So the outlining is done with Montana acrylic paint markers, which come in a few different thicknesses. So around like Willy himself, you can see some more detailed work, and that's a much finer tip on it. And then you had one that's a little bit fatter, like a Sharpie tip that I use for some of the other stuff.
So you hand drew Willy?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, so what I did was I cut stencils for the areas of color and then lay that down. and then go back in, and I had to hand do all of the line work.
Wow.
But once you have your
So
color
clean.
blocked out, it makes it a lot easier to sort of know where all these lines need to go. And I'm constantly using the reference images to keep all that lined up well.
Look at that
So
cabinet.
yeah, there's the cab. The
That's awesome.
cab I did pretty quickly. I mean, I was really scrambling with this project, so I think I spent maybe 2-3 hours on the cabinet getting that painted. But I cut some stencils there and did that with spray paint.
That's amazing.
Molly's, yeah, you can. This is your part.
I mean, there's not much to say about it.
Molly did the
We,
backpacks.
Yeah. So I went and I took a photograph because we had the Devil's Dare backsplash. You know, I took a photo, and then I even went and measured where all of the numbers were, just to make sure that scale-wise everything was on my digital image that I had taken the exact same scale. And so then, that's just a digital image that I created, and then we sent it to Dangling Carrot, and they printed it on Milky Plex. It was thicker than I thought it was going to be. It was maybe a half-inch thick, maybe a little bit less, maybe a third. But and then I took it and dropped it back to Spencer, and then Spencer actually cut out the spaces where the numbers were, so that we were then seeing the number.
Nice.
And did you use the same lighting that was in the previous
Correct.
box, or did you?
Yep.
Okay, so it's
Yeah,
not
and
new
so
LEDs because it really pops.
Yeah, and which did influence like the way that I designed it, and where I put some of the light fractures and whatnot. Because we had the actual thing,
cool.
I was able to take a picture of it. I was just able to kind of use that as reference and just design to it because it's the easiest thing to do.
That's awesome.
Keep it easy.
Yeah, there it
really,
is.
really looks great.
So yeah, there are LED in the playfield. I don't actually remember if I replaced them with LEDs in the back glass. I probably did if they're that spotty, and I put I think they're either cool or sunlight whites in the playfield itself. Yeah.
And even the pop bumpers are lit up. That's cool.
Yeah, the pop bumper caps were a fun part of it that I guess I haven't really mentioned yet, but the caps themselves are white 3D printed material. So I just modeled something really quick, and that white printed plastic is pretty translucent, and then I spray coated it. I didn't know that there was a light in there, and then all the hot dogs and the cakes. I mean, the 3D printed parts were really like the icing on the cake for me. To be able to get to do that and just drop this little thing in there, I was like, oh, this is such a treat. But I got some hot dog files and some cake files and painted all that up, stuck that in there.
Really funny. So there's directions on there, down to the lower right-hand side?
I think those are actually from the table, like when I got it. Those are like little apron cards. Mm-hmm. And you can see a little bit of I made a little sticker of the guys down below.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful piece, and I hope it rises from the ashes. And
we're gonna find it.
People, yeah, it's gonna you should put the word out in the textosphere. See if anybody can text in, tell us where it is.
It's just gonna pop up one day at an auction or something.
Yeah, we'll give you some Marco swag. Tell us where it is. Give us some leads.
I want to share something that somebody mentioned online. Somebody had made a video about this on YouTube and said that they learned that it was a Devil's Dare table, and then it had Willy's Wonderland put on top of it essentially, and that must have been thought of because it fits the theme of the movie.
I was gonna ask that. Yeah, how serendipitous.
Yeah.
Synchronicity. Yeah.
I had no idea. I was not thinking that at all, but I'm like, that's really amazing that worked out that way. And it's kind of a funny little fact about how this all came together. But just a quick share of some playfield plastics here. The way I chose to do this, and I've seen a number of different techniques, but I just traced the playfield plastics at scale and scanned them in, and then did ink illustrations on the plastics themselves. I tend to work better by hand rather than doing stuff on the computer. So I then inked it, scanned it back in. Everything's the same scale. Everything's jiving. All the screws are going to line up. And then colorized it on the computer, and then did a reverse water slide transfer for the plastics themselves. So these are all printed on clear water slide transfer in color, and you back it with white and put it on the plastic.
That's intense. That's awesome.
Oh, and this is a great, this to me might be one of my favorite aspects of this whole thing. Some folks have digitized this table and put it on BPN, or I'm not super familiar with virtual pinball, but I was Googling this at one point looking for something, and this popped up, and I couldn't believe it. They must have gotten the assets from the article that I posted or whatever, but if they're in the chat, or if anybody knows any of these people, tell them that I'm absolutely honored to see that. I was absolutely delighted to see that someone would go through the trouble to do something like this to allow other people to play the table.
Yeah, Saraxo in the chat actually was asking if you had known about that, someone in the VPX community creating it. So that's cool.
Yeah.
So you guys can download it and play it on virtual pinball, right? That's hilarious.
Yeah, I think that's it for the...
I'm stopping share.
Oh, wait, hold on. I'll come back to this screen.
We're back.
Awesome. That was amazing.
Well, thank you. That's awesome. Do we want to open it up to some questions in the chat?
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, we'll mention that. So everyone that is watching, feel free to drop questions in the chat. I will start asking them very soon. And whichever question Molly and Spencer like the best, we are going to send you a cool Willy's Wonderland and Marco Pinball swag pack. So.
And Molly and Spencer have to thumb wrestle to pick the right question. There's only one winner.
But I did want to go in kind of reverse. I think I was so excited about the pinball machine, James, that I completely skipped over the other PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. I just have some behind the scenes.
Yeah, I want to see the behind the scenes of the movie. I want to, yeah. I love behind the scenes, and it's great. Didn't you say, when we were doing our tech call, that Nicolas Cage decided to dance on his own, or the dancing wasn't scripted?
The dancing was definitely not scripted.
It's the best part of the movie.
Yeah, and it just kept getting, more and more intense, because there were multiple pinball days. Like, there were... Because there were little bits, that were shot early, and Spencer got to be there on set while they were playing with the pinball machine. Which, I mean, it was good that he was there and was helpful, but it really, when I kept stressing to them that they needed to have him there just in case there was a problem, it was really just so that Spencer could be on set and watch Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, do some selfies of Nicolas Cage in the background playing.
Yeah. So yeah, I just have some behind the scenes images if you want to see. So there's the Gus's Great Arcade. Whoa. There is the ticket booth that it's where the prizes are that you saw on the machine. That physically actually is in Zombie Cat right now. We still have it because I just haven't been able to part with it, but I also have no idea what I'm going to do with it because it's huge.
You kept that, but you lost the freaking pinball machine?
I know. Well, nobody wanted to move that thing because it takes a pallet jack and stuff to move it. Yeah.
It's amazing.
So there's the Willy's Wonderland.
Wow.
So not that this image is really going to help you guys that much, but so on the backsplash of the stage, we had drawn this little kind of line drawing of the of what was going to go up there, but then we just told our paint department to kind of go crazy themselves. So they actually added on the back a ton of Nicolas Cage references. So there's a pyramid that's there for National Treasure. There's a flower pot for adaptation. There's bees from Wicker Man. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that's up there that are Nicolas Cage movie references, and we never pointed it out to him or anything, so I don't know if he ever clocked it. But
That's
but yeah.
amazing, though. That's so cool.
So Grant, he's one of the producers. He also plays Willy in the actual like in the flashback or what.
Oh, nice.
Okay, there's the cake in the Super Happy Fun Room whenever
So
they
much
kill
blood.
the kid. Yeah.
Is it a real cake or a prop cake?
Oh, it was a real cake.
Did you eat it afterwards?
No.
What?
No,
What a
what?
waste. Put it on the crafty
You know,
table. I would have eaten it.
Again, like,
It would disappear.
just in the way that Kevin is so amazing, like the props department had like 6 or 8 cakes standing by so that we could splatter blood on them, and literally they used the very first blood splatter that they did.
Did you eat the other cakes that you didn't use? At least.
No. So something that was really interesting was that we had black light sensitive paint that we painted the pentagram in the Super Happy Fun Room, and we painted all the satanic symbols that were all around the room. So anytime that you're in the Super Happy Fun Room, all of that paint is there. You just can't see it when the black light isn't on. So whenever they went to do the scene, we just turned off the lights, turned on the black lights, and you could see the satanic symbols. But yeah, they're there in all the scenes that are in the Super Happy Fun Room.
That's cool. That brings one question that was asked several times now by the same person. Scratched Lens said, how many people were sacrificed over the table to give it its powers?
I mean, for my wrap gift for my art department, I actually gave them T-shirts that said "I survived the Super Happy Fun Room." That was like our crew gift that I made for everybody.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, there were some long days pulling off this stuff, and there was like one weekend that some of us may have worked off the clock just to do some stuff, which is don't do that on union shows. It's frowned upon.
So this was an indie film? This wasn't a union show?
No, it definitely was a union show.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying that
But
I don't
now,
approve of
yeah.
anyone working off of the clock and not getting paid.
For sure.
But sometimes you make a really special thing that you want to be really awesome and you want all of your stuff to be in
Yeah,
it.
you're passionate about your work.
Yeah. There you go.
I will say that Devil's Dare was harmed in making this film.
It's okay. It looks so
Sorry
beautiful
to-
now.
Sorry to any Devil's Dare fans.
All of you Devil's Dare fans out there.
So I do want to say that there was only one costume of each character. So we had to shoot everything clean for the flashbacks. Then they dirtied up the costumes and we dirtied up the rooms. And then they went in and they had to shoot everything consecutively because there were not extra costumes, for reshoots of stuff. And there was that terrible black oil that was like the blood for them.
Yeah.
Which was just really, so there's on Ozzy the Ostrich, you can see the puppeteers in their green suits behind him. So all of the characters were basically mascots, walk-arounds. With people inside them, the only one that was a puppet was Ozzy the Ostrich.
That's crazy.
So was the puppeteering from another local group from where you guys are, or was he?
The guy who was the puppeteer is BJ Geyer, who is local to here. He was the puppeteer for Ozzy the Ostrich.
That's awesome.
I hated that this didn't make it into the film, but every time after Nicolas Cage killed Ozzy the Ostrich, he would rip his head off and then kiss the head and then set it down.
Why'd they cut it?
It was just something that he did, but it unfortunately didn't make it into the movie. But it was so funny. So there's dead Ozzy.
Ooh.
Bye, my mom.
What did you guys use for the blood?
Well,
Is it just
that
oil?
was all our special effects team. So I'm not totally sure, but it didn't really wash out of anything.
Chocolate syrup or whatever.
No, that's definitely not chocolate
It was
syrup.
definitely, yeah, the idea, they definitely went more liquidy than that. So it was definitely something that had some water in it in some way. So there's the room that had the volcano that you never really see this room. We had all these dinosaurs everywhere, and we had like a big stunt pit, but because they had it dark in there and they had like the flashing light the whole time, you never really see this room.
It looks fun.
And this room was Siren Sarah's fairy forest, and then as soon as they shot that out, we took everything. I went to everybody and I was like, so we're good on Siren Sarah's because it won't be here tomorrow. They were like, yeah. So we like took everything out and we flipped it and turned it into Tito's. And then of course later they were like, so we want to get a pickup in Siren Sarah's. I was like, oh, have fun.
Always. Never fails.
Not gonna happen.
Okay, so this is probably
Ooh.
one of my coolest, the coolest things about this. I got so excited that we were going to get to build a Die Hard vent, you know? So we built it basically as an H, and all of the pieces, so every single side could be taken off so that they could shoot through it. And then the whole thing was even modular, so that if they wanted to create different like configurations of it, they could. But they didn't really end up doing much of that. But yeah, I was very excited to design that and build it and to shoot it because that was like a bucket list thing.
That's
for me.
amazing.
Just crawl forever. We just keep putting up the walls wherever you go.
There's just some blood. Tito's play place, just blood was everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
And there's
much
Gus
fun.
after he died in the bathroom and had his head smashed in.
Poor Gus.
It is a pretty gruesome, pretty intense
Yeah.
film. Not for young people.
I think the whole
sure.
time I was watching this film, I was like, just stuck. Oh my gosh, what is happening?
But again, Nicolas Cage totally carried this performance, though. I mean, he really he what he brought to this
So
script,
weird.
this story, and your settings, and how he played in those settings. You know, from a filmmaker point of view, it was, you know, I do not fall. I'm not a horror fan. I don't go, ooh, great horror film. But this was something different. This is something really worth watching, and I think all the things that you brought to this, all the things that the acting brought to it, it was a good show. So go see it.
And we're definitely into spoilers. There's the sheriff has been cut in half.
Look at his body.
Look at that. Good Lord.
That's
It's
nuts.
intense.
My gosh.
And then there's me cleaning up confetti.
I'm not getting wet. I love that.
You know, this
Yeah, you would think that
wrapped
would have
right
been-
right
You think-
before COVID. I'm seeing Unmasked Molly on set.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
oh, look at those.
yeah.
It-
She got
I know it's crazy how long ago that feels now that we were able to be on set without masks on.
right. Ooh.
And then there's the last image is just the graveyard of
Heads.
when they were going to pack everything up of killed mascots.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's why I'm
Yay.
stopping right there.
All right.
Yeah, excellent.
That was awesome.
Great slideshow.
I love that so much. That was a lot of confetti.
It was a lot. We bought 50 pounds, and there was maybe 10 pounds left when we were done. So I guess we went through 40 pounds, and it's just tissue paper.
Right.
Because obviously they make confetti that's mylar and shiny, which would have looked better, but it starts to get really dangerous when it's on the ground. They can like slip on it.
How did you distribute it? Was it through some kind of mechanism, some kind of way to distribute it?
So there were 3 cannons that were basically shooting the confetti up, but then there were also 3 fans and with special effects people just kind of like sprinkling the confetti over the fans so that it also spread. So it was a big old army of special effects people that did it.
Are you glad that it wasn't water and sprinklers?
Yeah, I mean, that's been done, and I definitely, this feels kind of more special. And we found a confetti company that allowed us to, we chose exactly the colors of the confetti that were the colors that we were using,
That's
in
cool.
Willy's Wonderland. So yeah, I mean, it all turned out really special, and it's been very surreal seeing all these images that I created, because I made all the graphics for the project. Frank Gabriel drew the actual characters, but then I did all the graphics.
Nice.
And so like seeing not just the Willy's Wonderland logo that I made, and then also just all the posters and everything are now being recreated on comic book covers. Not that I was work for hire, so I don't get paid for any of that stuff, but it's really cool and surreal
Always
to see
works
that
that way.
stuff out in the world, or
That's awesome.
And the punch can, the punch soda. So that was supposed to be Jolt soda, but we were going down the long road of trying to clear Jolt soda, and we had one of the producers was absolutely convinced that they could clear Jolt, and so we were so I made the punch soda can totally separate, just in case. And I was just sitting on this graphic because they wouldn't let us even talk about like what it would be, because they were so convinced that they were going to clear Jolt.
Sure.
And then it was like just too close for us to really turn around labels and whatnot. And so I was like, so what about this? And then the only thing, Kevin added a punch to the kisser, like the tagline or whatever on it. But other than that, it's like the exact can that I pitched to them.
That's awesome. I knew the punch can was yours, because a long time ago, James, we had these in a film, like some miners drinking beer, and she made this awesome beer that was the Natty Light, Natural Light. I still have that can set in my brother's house. It's so perfect. The recreation of it is great.
I've learned so much since then, man.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's so crazy. It's just like now
but it looks great on camera.
Now we can print on paper that's like elastic, so that it
nice.
Ooh,
as opposed to photo paper, which is what we use on those.
It's kind of peeling off now after 10 years. That's awesome. Well, I'm going to start asking a few questions from the chat room. Some of them are kind of silly. Anyone else in the chat, if you have any questions about Willy's Wonderland, the movie, or the pinball machine, or just for Molly or Spencer in general, feel free to drop it in the chat. I am going to...
And let's remind Molly and Spencer, as well as the people putting their questions in the chat, that if it's a good question, Molly and Spencer will select the best question, and you'll win some swag. So
Yay.
that raises you up. Get rid of the silly questions. Get the more intellectual questions in there that they'll like.
They might like it.
Oh, yeah, we should. Let's talk about the little dudes, man.
You guys get some questions going. Look at these wonderful little...
Tell us a little bit about your puppets, your characters.
They're so cute.
So again, it's just so amazing to watch. All the people make fan art. Somebody built Willy's Wonderland on Animal Crossing. It's like their house. I mean, it's really wild. And a girl who is her on Instagram, it's plushie_works, PLUSHIE_WORKS. She's 13. She has autism, and she made me the entire set of Willy's Wonderland. These are handmade. And she also made me a little backsplash to display them.
Aww.
Which is just
so cute.
Just makes me so happy. And
That's so cute. I like how Spencer couldn't help but do some puppeteering.
If there's a monitor in front of me, half the reason to puppeteer is you get to watch your own performance on set, because you always work from a monitor. So if you like a puppet show like I do, you get to watch it while you get paid to do one.
That's so cute. Did you get to do any of the puppeteering in the movie, Spencer?
No, we could have done those costumes. They hired a shop in LA that did a really great job with them. But you know how all that stuff always works out is whoever's in charge of that, they talk to whoever they know. And there's lots of shops that could have done a great job on those. And but we would have been happy to do it if given the opportunity.
Yeah, the thing that always works against us on stuff like that is that there's so much prep that's happening, and when the producers or the director are in LA, they want to be able to like walk into a shop and have conversations about designs and stuff like that. And we've gotten to make puppets for a lot of really great shows, but not on this one.
Okay, can you tell us really quick some of your favorite shows that you've produced? Other projects that you're excited about?
Yeah. Well, can we even say what you're working on right now?
Yeah.
I can't. We can talk about Doom Patrol.
Yeah, I mean the big one is Doom Patrol.
Cool.
We've gotten to do puppets for all three seasons of Doom Patrol, and so you're going to actually Doom Patrol just started coming out, the third season. So you'll get to eventually see an episode with puppets that not only we built, but we're also puppeteering them in it, which is really exciting. But in the first season, we got to make marionettes. And then in the second season, Spencer made like a Punch and Judy style puppet, and he got to puppeteer that. So it was, yeah, so Doom Patrol's been really good.
Little 3 hour, yeah. Yeah, if you're a Doom Patrol fan, I don't think the episode has come out yet. So there's some puppet stuff coming out.
And they're like Muppet style hand and rod puppets, spoiler. You know. So
yeah, they did a whole thing.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a great project. We've worked on a bunch of different like smaller things. I'm trying to think of the standout ones. Like I've had some really fun music videos. I did a video for this rapper Melly who was in jail at the time, and it's actually happened a handful of times where they need an artist is just like can't be there for whatever reason, and we make a caricature of them and do a music video with them. That was a really
That's
really fun
why
project.
they do it.
It happens, yeah.
I've seen so many rap music videos with like puppets, and I was just like, oh, cute, they use puppets, but it's because the rapper's in jail.
That's always why.
That's the lore.
Sometimes they just really like puppets, but in that instance, yeah. What else have we? Gosh, once you're done with a project, it leaves your brain so fast that
you're on to the next. Yeah. Always looking forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess also it's worth shouting out. I would say the other project that I would compare to Willy's Wonderland as far as being really special, as far as like doing things and then pitching stuff, and everything that you suggest makes it onto the screen, would be Stand Against Evil, which was his Dana Gould IFC TV show. I production designed that for all 3 seasons, to the point that I was so kind of encroached in what was being created, to the point that in the 3rd season, not only am I like puppeteering on an episode, but like I pitched that we were going to build like a miniature cardboard version of our town, and they like wrote an episode around that and stuff. So we got to do a lot of really, really, really cool stuff. And Dana Gould is like a dream to work with, because he's one of those collaborators that if you pitch him something that's funny, he's like no ego, like let's put it on the screen.
That's awesome. I have to check it out. That's really cool. So one of the questions we got in was from Willinois. Said, was Nick Cage playing pinball in the close-up game shots, or was there a stunt player?
Ooh, that's interesting.
It was both. For a majority of it, he's there, but there was definitely like pickups that were done later.
Who got to play the pickups?
It was it's really bad that I can't think of his name, but he is a stunt guy who Nicolas Cage came with Nicolas Cage. Like Nicolas Cage was like, this is my stunt guy, because they were coming off of a film that they were shooting in China, and so like they had to fly like his stunt guy from China with him. Like
That's awesome. And he did the pinball stunts.
They did the pinball zone.
Yes. But you know, like when there's like a crotch gyrating and stuff like that, that is Nicolas Cage's crotch. The stuff that you get the stunt guy is more like the hands and
Sure.
stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, closer to the pickups. That's awesome.
Yeah, to add on to that question, I did talk to Nicolas Cage a bit about pinball on set,
Right.
and he mentioned to me that he used to own a Gorgar pinball machine that he was really fond of, and that was a really cool thing to hear because Gorgar was like one of the tables that I was looking at re-theming to do the movie, and its layout just didn't quite work right, or I forget what it was, but I thought that would have been really cool for him to have seen it re-themed. I wonder if he would have like noticed it immediately, like, hey, what's going on here? There's like a Gorgar.
You can't
underneath
destroy a Gorgar.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
You probably would have been
Devil
really good
stare.
at that, though.
Okay, fine. Gorgar. No.
yeah, you got to draw the line somewhere, and I would actually have to agree with that. It just depends on your taste.
Oh my goodness. All right, how about from Jeffrey Oler, who's also a filmmaker, said, how long did it take you guys to complete filming?
We had, it was not very long. It was 21 days. We had, because we had 1 6-day week. So it was 4 weeks of shooting, 1 6-day week total. And we definitely were, you know, it was also very strange because we knew this whole COVID thing was happening, but we were so wrapped up in the film. It really was like we wrapped on a Saturday, and then kind of coming out of the stupor was like, oh, this thing's like really real. We have to cut our wrap in half basically to like, in case the studio shuts down.
That's wild. How long was your pre-production, did you say?
It was, I would say, 5 weeks total.
Wow, that's short.
Is that normal now too? Is a 5-week turnaround?
That's
That
short.
seems pretty fast to me.
That is very, for building sets.
For
that is
that
very
movie,
short.
yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But they had a little bit more. I'd had 2 weeks in December that I was doing